Can you think of a time when your day-to-day experience of a social purpose organization felt deeply contradictory to or incoherent with its larger social vision?
To be very honest, I find that with all the organizations I've seen till today, and extrapolating that, I think it will be true for each and every organization that is there on this world, and I hope I'm wrong. And all these organizations almost always go wrong in that sense. And this is my personal experience. And I think why that happens is because we are really not aware of the place we are coming from. What I'm trying to bring out and share is that I'll start with what is most common for social purpose organization. They are about change and they have a purpose. And how I see it is, these two things are actually a constructed reality. In real life, there is nothing like change and there is nothing like purpose. If you see nature, what I mean is if you see nature, there is not a single organism which lives its life thinking it wants to bring in change. It's only us humans that think that we need change or we want change. There is not a single organism on this planet Earth that lives its life because it wants to serve a purpose. What I mean by a constructive thing is that change happens, it is constantly happening, and we have seen it. So we think that that is how life works. So we somehow assume that if we are aware, then we can bring change. And I think we need to really look deeply into it, how we see it and how it truly is. Change doesn't happen as we normally think. I see that it is in our heads that it is like if I push a table and its position will change. That's how we approach everything, is how I see it. We don't understand that change happens because of all of us interacting and doing certain things. But all those actions get mixed in a stew pot or a cook pot. And the taste or the aroma of that stew is the change that we are seeing. By me singly doing something, the aroma is not going to change as I want it. If I'm going to add salt, not necessarily the aroma is going to smell salty. There are a lot of other things going on, interacting inside. And with that interactions, what comes up is change. And we don't see change as that. We think as if by our actions directly that change is going to happen. Same thing is with purpose. That what I mean when I say purpose is a construct is that we have seen a purpose being served by a species or an organism when we see the whole life of it. And when we look at it from one view, let's say a lion is serving the purpose of controlling the population of deers. That's how we see it, which is a very limited view of seeing it. And that's quite okay if we are trying to understand everything or communicate about something. But if we start looking at as if the lion has taken birth and it lives its life to serve certain purpose, like controlling the population of deer or something, it is as silly when we think that we have a purpose. We don't have a purpose. And when we don't have a purpose is the time when we can truly serve a purpose for whatever we are here for. Because when we are wanting to serve our purpose, we go off track, we are not living our lives. And the purpose that could have been served by our living our lives is not served. And that's how wrong we go. And all I think that is happening is because we think, we are able to think and see it separately. Inside our minds, we are able to separate things, which is an illusion. Things are not separate. And that is why we think like this. And I would like to give an example of language developed because we wanted to communicate. This is something I wanted to get across to you. And my struggle for generations slowly brought in the language. So it was the need to communicate gave birth to language. Then what happened was that now for us to communicate, we have got this idea that I need to learn a language. I am the same human which was living in the caves, who going through this whole angst and of not being able to communicate, which helped to develop the language, which I have forgotten. Because now I have a language. I think I need to learn that language, only then I will be able to communicate. And it may sound silly, but it is really sitting inside all of us that unless and until I learn this language, I won't be able to communicate. Rather than coming from the different place, I want to communicate now, how do I do it? So that language has become a barrier. And that is because how we see it. And then came grammar. Grammar is not existing on its own. Grammar is a construct in the sense that the language that is developed. Then we found a syntax or a way of how we are using it commonly, so that you and I can use the same way of communicating. So we saw that in our language, this is how it arranges itself. This is how the syntax is. And so we extracted that and said that this seems to be the way our language is working, and that is the grammar. Now grammar has become such a big reality that we think that unless and until I learn grammar, I won't learn the language. And if I don't learn the language, I won't be able to communicate. That is how skewed our thinking gets. That is exactly what is happening with purpose. Unless and until I have a purpose, I won't be able to live life. And we forget that by living our lives, we are going to serve a purpose.
So what do you think is the best course of action to take when you find yourself in such a predicament?
I really don't have any answers to that, because I really don't know what can be done. And maybe there is, because I am seeing it so clearly how we are all going wrong about this, and because I don't have means and ways for me to share this. This is one way I am doing it. But when I look at that, at least I can see a glimmer of what I can do, which is when I become real that I cannot do anything about this. Because it's not only about me, it's about all of us together, and I don't have direct control over it. That, I think that is the most important step that I'll take. As I am right now thinking, it was very necessary for me to realize that I really cannot do anything. And when I am that real, I think I am free, a little more free to maybe actually do something and even think of what can be done. So I think what can be done when this kind of things happen, when we really forget that when we are driven by purpose, we are actually missing out on the bus, which is the life. I think conversations are the best. to change. And that is why I think I'm also understanding that humanness of us which is wanting change. But thankfully, I am also seeing that just because I want the change, that change is not going to happen just because I go out and do something. And with that freedom, I can really see that there is something I can do to add to this, which could probably bring in this change that I am seeing. And the change I am wanting to see is for us to really see that it is so ridiculous to hold on to this concept of change and purpose. And in fact, that holding on to those things is something which is making change so much difficult. Change is already happening, and we are not on the bus, we are not getting on with the program. Instead of there, we are out somewhere else trying to bring in change which is already happening. So, at this point of time, I'm just kind of reminded of something I really love. There's a coach by the name of Mike Che. And I heard him say once, which has stayed with me forever, is we cannot change anything, but we can have conversations. And when we have conversations, things change. I think that's the only thing that I see possible. What I can do to, be real about whatever I see around me happening or not happening.
So when you say change is not possible, you can only try communicating. Then what is the purpose?